Oh, isn't this so much fun?
Oh, yes, live podcast. So, do you think you're emotionally immature when you're dating? And do you think that you're dating emotionally mature people, or are they not? So, we're going to talk about what emotionally mature people do differently today. We're on the new streamingnetwork.com, WGSN-DB, Going Solo Network, radio and TV's number one singles podcast. And this is Let's Talk Dating with Christine and Barry. Hi, Barry.
Hi, Christine.
Back on my phone.
Yes, but it
So,
works.
what does maturity mean? I'm here to tell you that just being chronologically older does not mean that people will be mature.
Yes, it's interesting how we think that people who are older should be much more emotionally together than younger people. And it's like, it's not based on age, no. It's definitely based on experience and choices, which we'll get into. But emotionally mature, I took out also someone's call it emotional wisdom. I have other labels for it too, so I might flavor those in the conversation because that's one of the things I specialize in too in coaching is because some people aren't. So maybe we want to talk about first is what emotionally immature is. Just
Yeah,
to
there's that EQ thing that people talk about, emotional quotient, right?
right, yeah, exactly.
So yeah, my criteria often when somebody I think they're not very emotionally mature is they can't regulate their emotions, that they're up and down and things upset them, little things, they can't get over things because that's all really normal human thought that you need to have emotions and you need to react to them. But think of like a 2-year old who just can't get over that they couldn't get a toy, and that's how I feel like when people are being immature emotionally. What do you think?
I would say yes. In fact, I'd ask some questions of anybody thinking if they're not emotionally mature is um, do you get easily triggered and pissed off by things? That's usually a clue. Do you find it hard to get off a position because you're going to be right about something? That's another one of those clues. Um, and do you hold grudges against people because you don't feel you're being respected, appreciated, honored, those sort of things? Those are three starting points. A lot more besides that, but that's three starting points to really clarify if you really are emotionally mature or not. And truth is, it isn't because as we said at the beginning, as you said, Christine, it's not about age maturity. So emotional maturity doesn't take years and years and years. It does take choices and it does take a willingness. One of the simplest tools I'll tell anybody, which we've told about many times, if you get angry, count to 10. Well, sometimes emotional maturity can be as simple as not saying the first thing that comes into your head in reaction to what somebody else said. Count to 10, be present, not say a word. That can be sometimes one of the highest levels of emotional maturity because there's a part of us that likes to be right, which is another one of those traps, and also oftentimes likes to be better than other people. And that's not emotional maturity. That is really ego positioning. And that's the other part. Emotional maturity is a lessening of the governance of our egos.
Oh, that's a good word.
Yeah.
And we
It.
talked about it a couple of weeks ago about not taking things personally. And I think emotionally immature people take more things personally, especially things that aren't, and they get really defensive without clarifying, did you mean it that way? This is how I took it. What do you think? They just react. I think that's the point that you were making too, that they just react without having a thought about, is this worth getting upset about? Is this the truth that I should get upset about? Like, Byron Katie's, is this really the truth?
Yeah.
That you stop for a moment when you have this emotion and say, what is really going on? That's a big sign of maturity. So the people who don't stop, that just react, that's a sign of immaturity.
Yeah. And it's frankly, I should be careful to say this.
Big sigh.
Well, because if you read the news, a lot of what's happening in the world is governed by emotional immaturity. It's governed by people who really are, how to say it simply, driven by their reactivity versus their reasoning. We talked about in other shows previously about the difference between reaction and response.
Yeah.
And part of the growth is when we move out of the reactive state into a place of responsiveness. And if you look at people around in the world, especially in the news, because it's the most commonplace, and even on social media, I've seen so many people on social media get so distressed and upset and reactive to things that are happening. it's like they haven't chosen to stop and just reason through what's going on before they choose to respond. And it is disheartening in a way, because sometimes I see people who I thought were conscious, caring, aware, or something that is so clearly not their true nature. And I just have a sense of empathy for what's going on. And it's challenging, because I would love to see them honor and respect and stand in who they really are. I mean, and I'm not perfect. And let's be clear up front. I have been, I live in LA and I drive in the traffic. Being emotionally mature is a challenge when you're behind the wheel of a car in the craziness that happens in this town. I do my best.
The people on their phones walking and not looking where they're walking, the people on their phones not looking where they're driving. Pretty crazy, and a challenge to stay mature, that you would react but not scream and not drive recklessly. That's where the maturity comes in.
Yeah.
And I was also thinking that it's very important to decide what's your attitude going to be as you go throughout your day. Because if you get up in a bad mood, learning to regulate yourself, because the people say, I'm in a bad mood and I didn't get enough sleep. Okay, did you take a shower so you don't have body odor? Maybe you need to do the same thing about your attitude. Because a mature person says, I'm now going out in the world and I didn't have enough sleep. So what do I do so that I won't be crabby, and I won't be crabby to those other people, because it's not their fault. But 2-year-olds don't think that. And I think a lot of us are taller and older, but we still act like 2-year-olds.
Yeah, that example of the 2-year-old is very painful. because it is that level of not learning how to govern our own emotions. You know, I was at some governance earlier, and it's that sense of really having a level of awareness because key thing is when we have awareness, our emotions aren't running the show anymore. We have awareness to go above that, look down and see our emotions and go, what do I do with these? Because one of the first steps towards emotional maturity, well, second one, the first one said was count to 10, but the second one is to really be present to what's happening inside ourselves, so that we don't just have autopilot reactivity showing up. You know, the challenge is most people are letting their emotions run on autopilot. And that is a messy place to play. And in a relationship, especially intimate relationship, it's what is one of the most divisive and distance creating things you can do, is let your emotions run the show. You want to have emotions, yes. You want to be aware of emotions, yes. And you also have wise stewardship of them, governance, as I mentioned. It's the only way to play, frankly.
Yeah. And one of the really important things, too, is to have an agreement with the other person that's intimately in your life about, if you're going to say something harsh, stop a minute. Or say, oh my gosh, I'm going to say something harsh and I'm calling myself out about it. So that you're honoring yourself and them. Because when you just run amok with your emotions, that is very immature. Mm-hmm. And when you're hurt and you're not getting something you want, or somebody's doing something that you don't want, it's easier often to just react and be upset and tell them they're all wrong and they're not doing the right thing. And it doesn't usually get people to give you the thing that you're needing, or to stop doing the thing you don't need. So learning how to have a conversation when you're not upset, to have an agreement about what to do when you're upset, can be very mature.
Yep. It's much easier to preempt your brewing storm of upsets coming through you than it is to clean up the mess afterwards. Because you've done the clean up. But if you preempt it and say what's happening, you know, please duck, I'm about to throw stuff out, sort of thing, then it might be easy to get through. The thing that I'm also aware of is that part of that emotional reactivity almost comes from a place of justification. It comes from a place almost where sometimes it comes up because the person doesn't feel loved, doesn't feel noticed, doesn't feel appreciated, where the action comes up. You know, when one of the partners, I'm not going to choose gender on this one, but one of the partners, you know, clean up the house or did some chores the other person didn't notice. Part of us can get indignant, saying, "You didn't notice what I did," you know, that positioning stuff. So emotional maturity, and it's not easy to get to, oftentimes comes into a level of service, meaning that you get to do things that are not rewards based. You're doing them because you want to do them. What's that look for?
Oh yeah, especially as acts of service people, we like getting rewarded and thanked, and that people notice. And I learned that as a kid, that my brother and sister were much messier than I. And so my mom would be gone during the summer to work, and she'd come home and she'd be in such a state because the house would be a big mess. So I started cleaning it up. But then I'd stand around waiting for her to say something, but she didn't know what it looked like before she got home. And I had this big puss face, and she'd say, "What?" And I'd say, "Well, it was a big mess and I cleaned it up." She goes, "Well, I'd be happy to thank you. Tell me everything you put away, everything you cleaned up." And she would then thank me. But I was sitting around waiting for her to just know and notice. And then I was a really good lesson to learn as a kid to say, "Look at what I did, and I need some appreciation for this."
Well, that's the thing, is you're being honest. It's like, what you need. And that's a part of maturity too, because it's really bluntly immature to pout and be upset because the other person is not a mind reader.
I know.
If you state like you need a hug, or you state that you need to be appreciated, or you state that you need to be noticed for what you've done, that's just honesty. That's clean. And the truth is, the other person will go, absolutely, if they really love you and they're really with you. But the challenge is, I know in intimate relationship, my telepathy is not that well trained. So we notice everything. And so having a partner that's willing to say that to me is appreciated on my side of the conversation, because it feels like that person wants to be acknowledged, and I have no problem acknowledging them, but make me aware so I can be acknowledging of you. Because it's like, if I have to guess or trust that I'm going to feel it or something, And the challenge also is that in some relationships, some people have this sense that I make it so obvious they'll notice. The other person is not aware enough to notice it for whatever reason. So there's distance in the two people. So be overt and state for simple acknowledgement desires that you'd like to be thanked or appreciated, whatever that is, worth doing.
Yep. I was a gold medal winner of "You can read my mind." And now I'm mad that you didn't read my mind, and I'm not going to tell you what you didn't do because you should have already known, and now you should really know why I'm mad. It was terrible. I was trained very well by my mom to be like that. And then I finally learned in my 40s to start saying what I needed and wanted. And it was amazing how much I got that I needed and wanted from the people who, what I told them, they're like, "You want that? I could do that." But they didn't know to do it until I told them.
Right.
Yeah.
And
it was a very maturing thing for me to do.
Well, yeah. And the thing is, our parents, unfortunately, weren't necessarily as far along the path as we've become. So we learned what we learned from them, because I've talked this many times in the shows before, how we learn about patterns and relationship behavior from our parents. Mm-hmm. But their parents weren't trained in this sort of material, so they won't be able to give us any great clues. And so as we become young adults and into adulthood, our skill set isn't very well developed, and it's not honed from wise education. So I say in your 40s was pretty early. For some people, wouldn't be able to do it that quickly,
It's one of the things you and I keep teaching, because I learned the hard way that it was so much more effective to figure out what I needed and wanted and ask nicely ahead of time. Mm-hmm. Because one of the things I say to my clients is, it's unfair to get mad at somebody for doing or not doing something you didn't tell them ahead of time to do or not do. It's unfair.
Yep, absolutely.
And as I sound like Dr. Phil, if you don't ask and you don't get it, how's that working for you?
Exactly. Perfect.
Oh, it's just maddening how we so often have needs that are very important to us, and we deserve having them fulfilled. But if we don't tell somebody about it and don't ask them about it, then we get our feelings hurt, and we feel lacking, and we feel frustrated. And even the most mature person, when they aren't getting their needs met, is going to feel very emotionally young. I do. So yeah. I just had to learn to speak up and have some maturity about it and be brave, because sometimes they'd say no. And that's a scary thing to do, to ask for something that you want to need and they say no. But okay, now I know I can't get that from you. Or is there a negotiating thing? We could do it a little differently than what I wanted, and there's a way that you could do it. But until you say it out loud, you're just going to get frustrated that even if they give it to you, maybe they don't give it to you in the way that you want it. and then you're going to be stomping your foot and putting your hands on your hips. That's what I always think of as a 2-year-old.
Exactly. Yeah. With the lower lip thrust out and the whole chin stuck up and the whole thing of just being so like demanding and like stamping your little foot and being so clear. And it's, I mean, when someone does that to play, it's fun to watch. Yeah. But if that's the only way they can communicate, it doesn't work very well. No. And again, I said, being willing to ask what you want cleanly, keyword cleanly, so you get what you want is so much healthier and more mature than if you basically either presume they're going to do it or throw a tantrum to get what you want. Neither one of those works.
So the way we've explained emotionally immature people is they react immediately, they react huge, they overreact, and they can't re-regulate themselves. They can't soothe themselves now that they're this big volcano that's erupting and the lava is going everywhere. There's no way to even, often you can calm yourself down, much less have another person have a reasonable conversation with you. So that's really a sign of people that are emotionally immature, as they explode right away and can't be reasonable and calm themselves down. Because if something huge happens and you react, good, that's normal. But can you re-regulate yourself? And emotionally immature people cannot re-regulate themselves at all.
That's why I said, like, the first step is like counting to 10, because just that, taking that moment to stop before you jump back in, like you're going to latch on and become this feral person, may be enough time for you to go, hang on, let me take a breath and be present. Go, hang on, I don't need to react that way. I can do something different. Yeah. Again, the time between reaction and response can be that brief or that long, depending how you do it. But if you do take the steps to be willing to listen to yourself, you might discover you can change your responsiveness to other people, and that can save your marriage or your relationship if you do that.
Or even your job, right? If you overreact to a boss.
Yeah, this is.
Or a police officer. I mean, really, somebody in authority, you could be in really big trouble.
Definitely, transference of this skill comes in handy everywhere, definitely.
Yeah. So practicing regulation, certainly the counting to 10, certainly keeping yourself in the best emotional, mental, physical, spiritual health that you've eaten and slept, because those are my things, or, not spend time with toxic people. Don't spend time with people that dishonor you and don't do things that you want them to do. I mean, if you've asked them, they don't do it, don't stay, because that's enough to get on your nerves and have you be overreacting to other people as well. If somebody's wearing you out, even if you're an emotionally immature person, when they're wearing you out with their emotional immaturity, you're going to react, and that's not good for you or the world.
Right. So I think we should get ready for a break, just to drop some things in the chat so people can have a pause for a moment, because we've got a lot coming up and we want to give you a little hint of what we're about, and then we'll talk about more of this after the break.
Yes. So we're going to take a short break for this wonderful station that sends out our episodes and our podcasts, the new streaming network. And if you would like to talk to Barry or I, we would be happy to talk to you. And the best way to reach me is through my website, theperfectcatch.com, and you scroll to the middle, and I have a What's Holding You Back from Love questionnaire. Click on that, fill out 8 brief questions about where you are and what you'd like to be different, and it'll give you access to my online calendar, and you can schedule a complimentary conversation with me, or you can send me an email at Christine@theperfectcatch.com. And how would people reach you, Barry?
Similar to Christine, I have a website, but this is easier. It's just my name. There's no fancy titles. BarrySelby.com. At the top of the homepage, there is a button that says Let's Chat, which takes you to my calendar. Also a questionnaire I send out. And then we schedule a time on my calendar. It's basically a 20-minute Zoom call to discuss where you are, what you're looking for, if I can help you, if you want to work together. You can send me an email directly at barry@barryselby.com if you have any questions, and we'll talk more about what we have available to you at the end of the show.
And we'll be back just in 30 seconds after this commercial with Let's Talk Dating with Christine and Barry to talk about what emotionally mature people do differently.
Indeed. See you in a moment.
Hi, we're back with Let's Talk Dating with Christine and Barry, and we are talking about what emotionally mature people do differently in their lives.
Yep.
And we covered in the first half a lot of what looks like when you're not emotionally mature, when you're emotionally immature. We've talked about a lot of the ways people act and react and the kind of things they say and do that it doesn't help anything. There's nothing positive generally that comes out of an emotionally immature reaction in the world.
Right. It's true. And the thing is that, as I said before the break, if you just look at the news or on social media, you'll see so many people acting emotionally immature. Yeah. I won't say it's a disease, but it's certainly a common experience, put it that way. And the thing is, it's almost because some people, and this is one of the challenges, is some people feel like when they're emotionally immature, they get rewarded for it. So it's easy to stay there. And so, yes, when you're emotionally mature, it can feel almost less energizing, because when you're emotionally mature, you get to react, to be upset and stress and all these other things. But the thing is, when you have more peace of mind, more calmness, first of all, your stress level reduces. Secondly, you're less likely to have an ulcer. Thirdly, you
high blood pressure.
Exactly. So you might live a longer life. So being emotionally mature can be a boon to your own health. So this half of the show especially, we want to start dropping seeds and giving you ideas what you can do to navigate the course to become more emotionally mature.
Yeah, I was thinking about Walter Cronkite, because you never knew his political beliefs, you never knew anything personal about him. He would just report the news, and I was very admiring of that. And it's such a contrast now that everybody's personal belief generally that's often on the news. And so learning to regulate yourself, to learn to not overreact, is a sign of definite emotional maturity, or just maturity all over. So being an emotionally mature person is somebody who stops and listens and decides, is this worth a high reaction or not? Is this really worth my time and energy to react to this? Because sometimes we react to people that there's really no reason. They're just spouting off about something, and that's their opinion, and there's no need for a response. I mean, an emotionally mature person decides, is this worth having a conversation with them? Is this important? Do I need to change their mind? Do I need to have them think differently about me? Often, no. They're just expressing their opinion, whatever it is, uninformed or not, and oh well, move on. They have a right to their opinion. But fighting back is often such a losing battle for both sides.
Absolutely. There's a quote I remember hearing years and years ago. It's been said so many times. Basically, do you want to be right or you want to be happy? In this conversation, you want to be right or you want to be loving? Because the thing is, when you want to be right, you're often losing all the other values you want to hold on to, such as being loving and being happy. So the choice to be right can be abandoning your real nature, what you want to be about, who you want to be in your relationships. That's why it's so important, I believe, to understand how to be more emotionally mature, because when you're doing that, you're not so fixated on the righteous position. You'd rather be loving or happy, and then allow the rightness to fall where it may, so to speak, or to dissipate. Because you might realize afterwards being right cost you too much.
Mm-hmm. And often when we fight about that, it's because we want to sway them to our opinion. We want to sway them to what we think is right, as you're so clearly saying. And choose your battles, because if they really do believe their way, even if your way is more right, you're not going to sway them. They're not going to change their mind. They're very clear about this is what works for them in their life. Move on. Either decide that you can spend time with somebody who believes so differently than you, which I've been admiring of the people that really could do that, or you can't. You can't be around them. You can't have this conversation or any conversation with them. That's a real sign of emotional maturity, to say, why would I even want to have more of a conversation with them about this if we're so opposing, and neither one of us can say, could we just agree to disagree?
Yeah. It's an interesting place, because one of the challenges also is that disagreement can create separation for a lot of people in relationship, can mean divorce even. So sometimes being emotionally mature is the willingness, again, to see sort of stuff above the situation, or to be detached from the situation. So even in that place, you can both be in middle ground, so to speak, not fixated on right, wrong, or left and right. It's like the challenge is we live in a very dualistic environment in the planet. There's up and down. Everything has its opposite, left and right, black and white, up and down, all those things.
Mm-hmm.
But being emotionally mature, the opposite is emotionally immature. But the reality also is being emotionally mature when you really are in that place of wholeness. There's no opposite required. You get to just enjoy being that place. And if both partners are emotionally mature and are both whole, the quality of the relationship thrives. It becomes so much more healthy and whole and wonderful. It takes effort to get there. So you got to be willing to do the work to become a better partner, as you talk about it, and be a better catch to find the perfect as well. It's that understanding that there is a requirement on us to become more whole ourselves, to find someone else who's going to be whole, because it's not their job to fix us,
And what I found too is when somebody's very vehement about their opinion and they've really looked at it and researched it, I'm fascinated to hear why, especially when it's different than mine.
Yeah.
I mean, I respect that they really haven't just, heard it on Facebook or saw it on the news, that they really did some of their own research. And I want to hear, even if I don't change my mind or I don't agree, I admire that they really have a platform for their belief. So rather than getting all reactive and saying, well, it's wrong because it's different than me, I learn a lot about them and the importance that they found in this subject. And I don't feel a need to argue. I'm hoping that they are just as interested in hearing what I have to say and how I've researched it. But if they're not, I've still learned a lot, and I don't react and get all upset about this is wrong. It hasn't proven very helpful in the times I have reacted that way.
Yeah, I've learned over the years that most things I know could be upgraded.
Upgrading, I like that.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, I realized what I had in my mind is what was real or true was inaccurate. So someone else's information might add to what I know, and I've become a student more, I think, in these decades than I was when I was a young kid, because I now really get clear how much I don't actually know. And the joy of being in a new relationship, just to put this on the table as well, is you get to meet somebody you don't know anything about, really. Mm-hmm. You may know their statistics, like their age, their location, their looks, that sort of thing, but who they are inside, that's a journey you might want to really invest in. And again, emotionally mature people, one thing they do differently is they tend to be in a journey of discovery than a place of assumption, which is such a wonderful place to play.
Be curious. I am so drawn towards people that are curious to learn about me. And I am so curious to learn about them. It's the thing I tell people. I start out, when you figure out all the things that you need to tell them about you and the things you want to find out about them, you start out by saying, I'm so curious about learning about, how do you travel, or what kinds of things have you seen that were the most fascinating, or what's the next thing I'm so curious about on your bucket list, or how you handle, Sundays. I'm so curious, how do you spend a Sunday? And people are like, wow, they're drawn in because you are now looking and sounding like you're interested in getting to know them. And then no matter what they say, it's still a very benign thing on the table, because one of the hardest things when you're not an emotionally mature person, or you haven't had this education about dating, is you show up at the first date going, would I want to have breakfast across the table with this person forever? And that is not something to look at a first meeting. The first meeting is, I just want to get to know this other person and see if they're interesting, and if I'm interested in spending more time with them. And not, do we agree on everything? Because you want to see, how do they approach and present their points of view and the things that are important to them in their life. I want to hear how you thought about it and your attitude. And, especially if somebody gets on there where they want to talk about their previous relationship, I always say, tell me what you learned about yourself from the people that you were with. Because I'm going to hear if they have badmouthed them, which is really negative to me. But I want to hear, what did you learn about you, and have you matured from that? So it's another way to learn about people's maturity, is to ask them, well, what did you learn from where that didn't work out very well?
Very wise indeed. Yeah, I was chuckling because I realized that I've talked about in my work, and also when I've been on dates. Yes, I'm single as well. What it was about my last relationships that gave me the impetus to do what I do, because it was what I learned that I was doing, in quotes, wrong, that I was doing what was mistaken. So for me, the understanding of myself is what I bring to the conversation, but it also means that when I'm having a exploratory conversation with somebody else, I don't have chagrin about talking about my mistakes. I actually own them because it's given me what I've learned and what I've grown into. And if they do the same thing, that's even better. So I agree with you totally. That willingness to discover and explore. And yes, the first time you meet somebody is really, do we like each other enough to go down that journey together? Not that we want to get in bed together, because that's the 20-year-old time we're doing things, frankly. But it's also about, is this person I want to be across from, to talk to, like you were saying, for the rest of our lives? That's something that grows over time, and to learn not so much their views, but how they relate to their views is really where the joy is. You know, in my master's program, we talk about one of the key lessons we learned, one of the key teachings to talk about was how you relate to the issue is the actual issue. So the issue isn't what's going on, it's about how you relate to it that comes up. And so watching somebody's way of responding to life versus reacting to life tells you a myriad of things about them that you wouldn't otherwise know by talking to them on a date. So watch how they behave.
Oh, I love the curious questions, because like, what was something that turned out so much better than you expected it, and why? You know, what did you learn that helped it be better? Or when something didn't turn out, you know, how did you react to that? And what did you do next? Because, you know, you've all heard I'm the person that always has to find the other side of the coin of what positive thing could there be to this hard thing that's happening in your life. And I want to hear that somebody, they don't have to be as positive as me, but that they've made it through it and they've gotten to the other side, and there's not still this huge regret or huge problem about it, that they've now seen the benefit. Whatever it is that happened, big, small, there's a benefit. There's a really good reason that you've now learned something better, to do something better in your life for that. And I think that's a huge sign of emotional maturity.
Yeah, I like to think there's more people waking up to this now than there used to be. I only hope so, because it's kind of frustrating. There's only a few of us. So hopefully people watching this conversation and our explanations and our sharing are getting a new clue of how to be in the world, how to relate to people, and how to be themselves when they're in any environment, not just at dating, but in, as you said before, about, you know, how you handle emotional maturity when you're at work or in your family dynamics. That's where work is.
Oh, you know, Barry, I'm going to compliment our audience, that the people who listen to us and watch us, and certainly more than one episode, are striving for this, or are already on that path and just want to get it more, because I don't think emotionally immature people ever want to listen to us. Don't you think?
I think actually, when you said that, part of me goes, oh yeah, I should say, I didn't really think about that. It's true. I have had feedback from people who I know who watch that show, not just regular watchers, but people who I know personally who then watch that show or listen to a podcast, which we'll talk about at the end. I've been interested in how they've responded or reacted to what we said, because a lot of times what we've said has triggered them because it's something that was something they didn't realize or recognize. But I watch how they handle it, and that's always such a reassuring sign that yes, most people I know who listen to a show are emotionally mature, so that's a good thing.
I think I'll still be friends with you now that I've seen you react.
Right. So true.
Because we do talk about deep, important subjects, and that's the kind of clients that we like. We want to talk to people that are interested in growing, interested in things being better in their life. And the thing is, you don't know how to do it yourself. That's why you go take classes and you go learn from, you know, therapists and coaches, so that you can learn stuff that you never thought about before, and that you haven't thought about this way before. And we're both really clear that you have the answers inside of you. You just haven't been asked the kind of questions that we know how to answer. Ask you, and then you give us the answer. Yeah.
Exactly. It is a collaborative experience for sure.
Collaborative, partnership. Love all those words.
That's why we do what we do.
I love what I do. You love what you do. And we love doing this too.
Yep.
So if this has sparked anything inside of you, like, oh yeah, I get that and I'm all for that, or oh my God, you know, I react that way, or I have people in my life that react that way, how will I navigate that? How do I get away from the people that are acting this way? How do I not encourage it? Oh, it is such a skill, a life skill that Barry and I would be happy to teach you.
Mm-hmm.
So if you would like to talk to me, the best way is to go back to my website that I talked about at the break. It's www.theperfectcatch.com. And if you scroll to the middle of the page, there's a What's Holding You Back from Love questionnaire. And the reason that I called my company The Perfect Catch is you need to learn how to be one and then you'll attract one. So this form that you're going to fill out is like, this is where I am right now. And this is where I'd really like to be, to up-level my life and to up-level my relationships. And then you'll have access to make an appointment with me to have a complimentary phone call through my calendar. You can also send me an email at christine@theperfectcatch.com. And while you're visiting my homepage, I'd love for you to go to the very top because I have an ebook that's free. It's a compilation of the 10 years I did where I wrote a newsletter and an advice column, and it's all broken into chapters that have helpful tips for your dating and relationships. If you go to the middle, you can join my mailing list, and every week you'll get this live podcast in your mailbox without anything else to do. You can just, come there. And as you scroll to the bottom, you'll see all my social media icons of Facebook and LinkedIn and Pinterest and Instagram and YouTube and Twitter. And when you go to YouTube, if you click on that, you'll get to see Barry and I for over 270 times that we've been talking to you with all of our great advice. So Barry, please tell people how to reach you.
Absolutely. Same as Christine, I have a few things to offer. So first of all, starting with my site, which is barryselby.com. As I mentioned, at the top of the screen is a button you tap on, click on to get on my calendar. And we have a 20-minute conversation scheduled between you and me so we can talk about where you are and what you're looking for and if I can help you. At the bottom of the homepage is my email list opt-in. So you just jump in there and put your name and email in. You'll get an email from me every week with this show, plus other things I'm working on. So definitely do that as well. In the middle of the screen is the first of my 2 assessments, which I call quizzes, because quiz sounds fancier. Actually, no assessments. Well, either one. I got the name right. The first one, which is you can go directly, if you go to barryselby.com/quiz, is your relationship readiness assessment. Are you ready for a relationship? What's in the way? Answer that quiz. That'll give you some good ideas, some input, and I'll get send an email afterwards with the summary of where you are and what's working, what isn't working, what you can do next. If you want to go for the second level, which is the next level of the game, so to speak, is the self-assessment. And that's, you go to barryselby.com/self-quiz. That is your self-relationship assessment. Basically, how are you in relation to yourself? How's your self-esteem? How do you approve of yourself? Do you take care of yourself? It's 7 areas. Sorry, it's 7 areas, but 7 things on the screen of areas to focus on that you basically navigate through to get clarity of where you are and what you're looking for. That gives you a whole downloadable PDF as a result, which is much more content, much more guidance, much more input to help you navigate moving forward in your own life. Also, on my website is my book, which is on the book page, which you go to barryselby.com/book or go through the navigation. And that's where my best-selling book, which has been out for 13 years now, called 50 Ways to Love Your Lover, is residing. I bumped into a friend of mine this morning on my hike, and he said, "Is that like 50 Shades of Grey?" I said, "No, but my book came out first." It's 50 Principles of Healthy Relationships, not 50 Ways of Kink. Just to be clear. Yeah. So 50 Ways to Love Your Lover is the relationship principles. And if you want to find out more about what the book's about without buying it yet, you can go at the top of that page is a little audio track recording of 2 very smart sounding voices, but they're both AI generated, that discuss my book in great detail. So you listen to them first, then if you like it, go get the book. And the link's at the bottom of the page to go buy it on Amazon, Kindle, or get the ebook as well, either way. You can find me on my social media platforms. So my name is Barry Selby on Facebook, on LinkedIn, on Pinterest, on Blue Sky, and on YouTube, where I have also got all these shows saved, as well as over 1,000 other videos on there as well. So lots of content to watch me do different things. And to be honest, it's a span of about 15 years. So I look different 15 years ago. So you can check out my changing appearance if that impacts you. But also you can definitely send me an email at barryselby.com. One quick thing, I am focusing my work at the moment towards helping long-term singles. If you fall in that category and you want some clarity and guidance, I'm actually sending out a questionnaire. So drop me an email at barryselby.com. Let me know you're looking for more guidance in the area. I'll send you the questions and we can talk further. I think that's everything.
And people can watch you physically mature over time.
Yes, right here.
So Barry and I are here live every Thursday at 1 o'clock Pacific and 4 o'clock Eastern and all the times in between. And we're happy if you want to watch us because you can submit questions and we'll answer them live while we're doing our show. Yep. And then if you want to watch us on repeat, you can see us on YouTube or Roku. But if you don't want to watch us, you can take us with you. Right, Barry?
I won't say it that way, but if you're not in a place where you can watch us, let's put it that way. You can listen to us.
If you want to listen to us.
If you don't want to watch it, that doesn't sound nice. No, if you haven't got the space to watch it because you're driving or you're out riding a bike or you're shopping, whatever, you can listen to us on the podcast platforms of your choice. If you listen to us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon, etc., we are available to listen to, binge listen wherever you go, wherever you're up to, and you can listen to all 270 shows at your leisure. And if you're an emotionally put person, you probably want to do that.
And we'd love for you to like and review and share us with anybody in your life who's having a challenge in their dating and relationships. And we will be back next week with another interesting subject.
See you then. Take care of yourselves.
Bye for now.